Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show. I am your host, the fellow KGB. It's Tuesday night hangout. We're here with John Heffernan. How's it going, man?
What's up, Kyle? How are you?
Doing great, man. It's bittersweet. It's the last official Tuesday night hangout of the regular season here, but we might have some extra curricular stuff for the postseason where we're just kind of hanging out. Maybe it's not fantasy orientated, but we're brewing something up for the people. So excited about that. But I don't know, man. The end of the 2021 season is here. I'm kind of just ready for this play-in tournament. I'm like, man, there's going to be some good teams. LeBron, maybe some. Maybe Lakers versus Golden State. I don't know. I'm excited about the way this is shaping up.
Yeah, absolutely. The play-in tournament's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a good kind of appetizer before the playoffs, and yeah, I'm excited too. There lots and lots of kind of scenarios to still play out. Lots of positioning, seeding to still get figured out. We only have a couple games left, and a lot of this stuff could flip and switch pretty fast. So it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out.
And just looking at we pretty much know the teams. I think at this point, the Pelicans are 2.5 games behind the Spurs, and of course, Zion's got the busted ring finger. I think Brandon Ingram's out. I think we know the 10 teams in the West. Let me just scroll up to the East real quick. Chicago, the way the Wizards are playing, man, they're going to be a tough out in that tournament. I don't want anything to do with Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal right now. I think their games have just been intense scoring, high scoring games. So I think we're in the final. We know who the top 10 teams are. They're just duking it out for that, 5, 6, 7th, and the kind of the seeding here. But I don't know. Who do you like? What are your thoughts with the Lakers not just basically not caring what seed they are? Are they going to be able to run the table from the 7th seed?
I think they care, but I think they also, they knew they had to rest LeBron, and then LeBron also got hurt. Davis got really hurt. It's just kind of a function of their season and what they were able to do last year with their big long run. I think they could run the table, but we haven't seen them healthy yet. We haven't really seen them healthy now. We saw them healthy at the beginning of the year. They looked really damn good at the beginning of the year. I thought even LeBron had a great shot to go for MVP before his injuries. But yeah, I think they could run the table? Absolutely. But I think they need to be healthy. And if you're starting from the 7th spot or, one of the play-in spots, you have to be healthy round one. I mean, your first round opponent is going to be the Jazz or the Suns, or maybe, probably it looks like those two are locked into the top 2 spots. So, if you're playing either one of those teams round one, you better be ready to roll.
Great. And then I'm kind of excited about the idea of somebody else in the Western Conference representing in the championship. Whether that's, I think Utah would be fun. I'm kind of pulling for the Suns. I would like to see Chris Paul maybe get to. He's never been to a championship, I don't believe. Just kind of I think the Western Conference Finals a handful of times, but it's exciting. We might get a new team, and the way that the Mavericks have been playing, they're pretty healthy. I think Porzingis is the only guy that's out, but it's kind of wide open this year. Just the way the Lakers have been unhealthy. I don't know. It hurts you with the Jazz losing Donovan Mitchell for a little bit, but it sounds like he's coming back shortly, if I recall. Let me see.
I think that's the plan. Yeah, he's going to come back. He probably won't play. He might not even play again in the regular season, but he's going to come back for the playoffs. That's what I've been hearing as well. And Chris Paul has only been to one conference finals. It was his first year in Houston. His playoff record is not. It's the opposite of impeccable. It's riddled with some stinkers.
So it looks like, they said this was on May 7th, so 4 days ago, he'll be out another week. So we're probably not going to see him in the regular season, but Donovan Mitchell will come back. And what's crazy to me is that Utah is a hell number 1 seed without Donovan Mitchell the last 2 weeks. So that's mad props to them. 1.5 game lead, things can get crazy. I don't really think it matters if it's 1 or 2 for the Suns and Jazz. They'll both probably take it. But I don't know, man. I'm just excited. Do we know when the play-in tournament officially starts?
I'm not sure, but it's I think very shortly after the final games of the regular season, a day or two, maybe a 1 day break, 2 day break, play-in tournament Yeah, May 18th. I think the last games of the regular season are the 15th, 16th. So it's right away.
Dude, that's next Tuesday night.
Yeah,
That's,
a week. That is the it's going to be a fun Tuesday hangout next week.
hoping to get Drake on there. I think that's when we're going to do our, our wrap up award show. So we should be able to get a lot of good info on there. But I don't know where to start. Like we got Justin in the chat room. I don't know if he's got any more questions. I was kind of helping him out throughout the day with his roster, but it's week 20. I'm not sure how many people are actually playing their championships this week. It makes sense to move it up like fantasy football. You want to avoid that last week, so you're not, adding Yahoos and stuff. But I just want to look and see. Let's just take a look at the fantasy numbers and see who's been beasting the last 7 days. Of course, it's Russell. Like it's not even close. Averaging 69.5 points over the last 7 days. The next closest is 60. And I was fortunate enough. I was at the Wizards Bucks game last Wednesday, and the Bucks held on. But it's so fun to watch him. And I think that was my first time actually seeing him in a live game too. But just look at these stupid numbers, man. I think there's 15 games here that are shown. Only 2 of them are not triple, or 3 of them are not triple doubles. But we're looking at one of the greatest players of all time right now, and we're right at the right time before the playoffs start. I don't think anybody wants to play him in the play-in tournament, or even the 1 or the 2 seed that would play them. I don't think they want anything to do with it. So for me, the Bucks sitting at the 3, we don't have to worry about the Wizards at all, right?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, you have this kind of interesting scenario that's potentially emerging where Russell Westbrook against Durant and Harden. That would be that's just that sells tickets. That you don't have to really advertise for games like that.
And I'm pretty sure I saw the blurb that James Harden is planning to play tomorrow night, and they have, I think, 3 games left for him to get ready. That's the blurb right here. He could make his return as soon as Wednesday. Let me just look at the schedule real quick. So it's either tomorrow night or they're going to hold him out to the weekend here on the 15th and 16th. So maybe it makes sense to let him get ready against Chicago and Cleveland, not really force anything against San Antonio here. But I don't know, man. I still don't know how I feel about the play-in tournament, but I think it's making these last week and a half or so, it's making them more exciting than I remember. Typically, we knew what the playoffs were. We just wanted them to start, but they added this little gap between the regular season and the playoffs to get us excited and watch some of these teams that are fringe teams. But I don't know, just a lot going on here. But where do we go with today? It's kind of an open show. We're only about 8 minutes in, and I don't know what we got for fantasy football. Or for fantasy basketball. We both didn't make the championship in our league. We made mistakes. Should we pull up our teams and kind of just do a walkthrough of what went well, what went wrong? I don't know.
I think lessons learned, mistakes made. That could be a good way to start. It's good to show the people we're only human. I mean, I didn't even make the playoffs, for goodness sake. So I got some explaining to do.
I'm just gonna pull up the draft recap because maybe that's the best way to kind of evaluate the whole thing. So I'm just looking at round 1. I don't think anything sticks out as being a bad pick per se. Maybe Joel Embiid falling to round 2, Russ Westbrook, Curry. These 3 names probably should have been drafted over Booker. Probably Simmons, maybe even I think we were maybe a little quick to anoint Jason Tatum as a first rounder, but he did show some nice moments, that 60-point game. But I don't know. Does anything stick out in these first 2 rounds for you as potential mistakes?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking at my team in the face, Mount Zion. Trae Young was a terrible decision in round 1. He's not been that bad, but missed some games. And just looking at the guys like Lillard and Simmons and Embiid and Westbrook and Curry behind him, it's just what the heck was I thinking? I will be honest with you. I was debating Westbrook or Trae Young at that spot. And if I had Westbrook, my season may have went a much different direction. So especially with how he's on such a tear right now. Karl Anthony Towns, Anthony Davis, LeBron James, those guys were good picks, but they missed a lot of games because of injury. So in some capacity, those are not the best picks. And I think, Simmons, Tatum, Young, you probably could have got a little better player there if you would have went with some of those guys in early round 2. But, at the time, probably not the worst first round of all time. Pretty solid first round, especially if you think about in the moment.
Mm-hmm. But I just remember I remember doing a mock draft where I took Russell Westbrook at like the 10th overall pick, and I remember there's some comments thinking, I don't know about that, but I think Embiid, Westbrook, and Curry all probably should have been first round picks, and we can kind of nip some of the guys at the back. But looking towards the end of round 2, I think people were frustrated with Siakam. I mean, Toronto as a whole,
Yes.
they just kind of melted. But I don't even know how to fix Toronto. They finally got a decent center with Kem Birch. But what do we do with our Toronto guys going forward?
I don't know. Siakam is such a weird scenario. He really during the pandemic, especially early on, he had a hard time training because he didn't really have much stuff in his home. And that set him back in the bubble, and that setback seems to have, to some degree, carried through this season. He's had some booming games, 44 points, 39 points on the screen here, but outside of that, he's really underperformed. He's been way more hit or miss. I think he can bounce back next season, but he could be a good kind of third, fourth round pick next year, whereas this year he was a bad second round pick.
I forget that they relocated to. They were in Miami, right? Where did they end up?
Tampa, I think. Tampa.
Yeah. I forget
Tampa Bay Raptors.
Depends if their families were able to come down in too. But we got a question from Justin here. He's asking, when did Julius Randle and who's JB? Jimmy? We're talking Jimmy Butler. Is JB?
I
Jimmy
bet
Butler?
JB's Jimmy Butler. Yeah.
But Julius Randle, I just remember Drake would just mock draft him all the time. He got him round 6, 6.2, which is stupid. I should have ended I knew I should have taken him at round 502 instead of Kelly Oubre, but I kind of let that one slide. So Julius Randle fell to round 6, pick number 2, and then Jimmy Butler was round 3, pick 5. Let's just kind of investigate this round 3 and 4. I'm just gonna soak these names in for a little bit here. Oh man, TJ Warren. That was maybe next year we can get a TJ Warren revival. Anything else? Sabonis round 3, man. He's probably a fringe top 15 pick next year, I would imagine. In the way he's been playing lately, look at these 70-point games.
He's awesome, dude. He's really, really good.
We'll probably see Jalen Brown. Or I'm looking at the next question. We'll probably see Sabonis maybe flirt with end of round 1. But then Justin's asking about Jalen Brown. And snagged Jalen Brown.
Yeah, I snagged Jalen Brown. At the time I thought I reached pretty heavily, but in the long run, that was actually a pretty good value for me, especially given that guys like TJ Warren and Yusuf Nurkic were going in this round as well. But yeah, there's you start to see. Actually, I feel like rounds 3 and 4 are not. Round 3 at least seems pretty good for most of us. Round 4, some of us hit some stinkers, but some of us hit some big ones. Some really nice players too. So, yeah, it feels like not a terrible draft so far. I mean, TJ Warren is a black mark, but and Nurkic feels like a bit of a reach. But beyond that, round 4 doesn't look too bad.
Well, Nurkic, the way he's been playing lately, this looks like a 4th round value. He just missed so many games that it kind of sticks a little bit. But looking at these numbers, that's probably worth a mid 4th round pick. So I don't have a problem with that. I think the first issue that we have is TJ Warren. But at the time, we just saw TJ Warren dominate the bubble, and
yes,
it was that no one made any eye rolls or what was that kind of pick. That was a common good pick, that's what people would say. And then I just remember when Dalton took Christian Wood round 4.4, and then you take Jalen Brown, there was a lot of angry people because those were 5th round projected players. And I just remember some of the guys sitting here, we all thought we're going to get Jalen Brown and Christian Wood. But then you guys kind of just snagged him up. But I don't know, the thing about fantasy basketball is things kind of go the way you expect. And then it's not till like you get down a little bit later here where guys start to separate themselves. So guys like Julius Randle, I thought Fred VanVleet held his own. As a fifth round pick, Fred VanVleet had a pretty nice year, averaging 39 fantasy.
Yes.
But he's just been kind of, again, the whole thing with the Raptors as a whole, they've just been kind of dinged up in and out of lineups. But when he played, he was worth probably a third round pick. So that was a really good spot. Anything else stick out here in the fifth and sixth round?
Round 5 is just full of grenades. You have Oubre. You have, I mean, Russell was probably a pretty good pick. He just missed a lot of games. John Wall. At the time, the John Wall pick wasn't horrendous, but he missed a lot of games too. Whiteside played 10 games this year, and in 5 of those games, he played like less than 10 minutes. What I don't know what the hell I was thinking with Montrezl Harrell in the 5th round. That is a bad pick. Brogdon and Valanciunas are not, and Porter are all pretty solid. And I think Adams is maybe a little high, but not too bad. But yeah, like kind of that middle, that early to middle of the 3rd or the 5th round, lots of grenades. Actually, Adams is, especially if he only averaged 25 points this year, that's definitely a bit of a reach.
So in terms of like lessons learned, it's looking like this 5th and 6th round. Like don't be afraid to go get your guys. We even thought like Julius Randle, like I should have taken him where I took Kelly Oubre. And even though I didn't love the Kelly Oubre pick, he still averaged almost 30 points per game. So that's probably more of like a 6th round grade. But it wasn't terrible. I think the winners of this, though, probably VanVleet. Russell played pretty well. But Brogdon and Valanciunas, man. Valanciunas played really well.
Valanciunas is nice, yeah.
This was probably the win of the 5th round.
I disrespect Oubre. He was a much better fantasy player this year than he was like an actual player. The Oubre pick is not terrible for round 5. If you're getting 25 plus points, that's fantasy points. That's pretty solid.
He was probably my most frustrating player on a nightly basis, just because.
Yeah.
And he's been injured, but like you would look at this stretch of 5 games, like this is how it was all season. You'd be like, oh hell yeah, Kelly, good, like 48.75, and then he's going to just sneak up and get a 17 on you. But again, he was kind of injured and he had the weird wrist injury stuff going on. But I think Golden State has a lot of fun pieces for next year. I think they could be a really solid team with Wiseman in his 2nd year. And I believe, let me pull up, what's the NBA draft order? We know. I'm just looking at like a projected draft order.
Yeah, that's a great question, because the lottery is really weird now with like the odds are flat. They flatten the odds, so like the worst teams don't have maybe like a quarter, a 25% chance to get high picks. So it's but in theory, it looks like this is based on standings here. So that could obviously be totally different, but yeah, these are not terrible scenarios.
And I think like where you want to be is in that top 6, 7. You're almost guaranteed a baller at that point. I mean, I think the line starts to get kind of drawn in this area, but this is a top heavy loaded draft. I think a lot of people are going to be happy with, even if they're the 5th to 6th pick, you're getting some pretty good freshmen. I mean, it was the first 8 picks are going to be freshmen here.
Damn, I can't believe it. Moses Moody at 11 tells me there's a lot of good players in this draft. I like Moody a lot. So, and yeah, we all know, the top guys. Those guys are well spoken for. Yeah, it feels like there's a really strong like top 3, top 4, top 5. Maybe even top 6, like you said. And then it's a really strong like next 6, and then after that, who knows? But
well, I'm super intrigued with where the older guys here, Corey Kispert from Gonzaga, and then Davion Mitchell. Those 2 guys put on a hell of a show in the tournament, and they're
in the
older,
finals. Yeah,
they're older, but they're going to be ready to contribute a little bit more than some of these other guys. They played a lot of good basketball in their experience. So I don't know. That draft order is going to be fun. But if we're looking at, where do we go back here to the full order? I was just saying, Golden State, man, they're going to add one more potential lottery pick, and they're looking at something pretty nice here if they can get up a little bit. But with them making whose pick did they own here? They own Minnesota's. Dang.
Minnesota.
Russell. So, interesting. But
Yeah,
let's
that was a good trade for them. They got what's turning into going to be a very nice first round pick. And again with the flatter odds, having the sixth spot, you have a pretty good chance to move into the top three. So
right. I'm just looking at the 6th round right now. I mean, Julius Randle is probably. I know we're kind of saving our awards for next week, but as far as the best values in fantasy basketball this year, I don't think you can beat what Julius Randle provided. Just 44.5 points per game. And we should talk about the Knicks for a little bit, huh?
we can, but that round 6, there's a couple absolute kaboom guys in there. You have Julius Randle, Clint Capella, who is a foundational piece to one of the teams in our championship right now. And LaMelo Ball, who I think, wasn't necessarily healthy all year, but he was really good when he was available, even fantasy good. So, yeah, lots of really good picks in this one. But yeah, obviously Randall is the prize of the middle rounds.
And I'm trying to look.
Yeah, we could talk about the Knicks too, for sure. That's a good idea. They're a fascinating team right now. There's a Lakers-Knicks game tonight. And Tony Kornheiser on PTI today said this is the most relevant Lakers-Knicks game since they met in the championship in the NBA Finals in like the 70s. So
I believe LeBron's suiting up tonight too. So it's kind of go time for the Lakers.
I think they have a back-to-back, and I think he might be playing tomorrow. But I'm pretty sure they have a back-to-back, and he's playing one of the days and not the other. I'm not sure if it's this one or tomorrow. But
so yeah. This came out a little bit ago. He's out tonight, expected maybe tomorrow against Houston. So let's see if they can get it done. Do the Knicks have any? They don't have any real hope of catching the Bucks. Yeah, they're 5 games behind. So they
impossible.
They got to hold off Atlanta though, right? So
yeah, I mean that's going to be your 5. The likelihood that's going to be the first round matchup it's the 4-5 matchup. I think that's pretty darn high likelihood. The question is who's going to have home court advantage,
right? And well, I'm just wondering, like Atlanta and the Heat, they're only half game behind each other, half game difference. Like you could see Knicks versus Heat or Knicks versus Hawks. Personally, I'd like the Bucks to play the Hawks, but I don't know. Clint Capella could be a menace. But the Heat are a matchup problem right now, and they're deep. They made some nice moves before the trade deadline. And the Heat make me nervous in the playoffs. They can kind of just turn it up whenever they want, and they have played some good basketball in spurts this season. But I don't know. Like I just want to look at this Knicks depth chart and see how are they doing this.
Well, I mean, Julius Randle is a bat. He's a kind of a 5th, 6th in the running for MVP. I mean, in just statistical output and performance this season, he's been an All NBA player, maybe even a first team All NBA player. He probably won't win that, but he's certainly in the conversation. He'll certainly make All NBA, probably the second team, honestly, which is a hell of an accomplishment for him, for anybody. But I mean, he certainly, I think he deserves that for sure. RJ Barrett has blown up this season. He's, with Randall getting all the attention, I think people are forgetting Barrett has super high draft capital. He was supposed to potentially even be the number 1 pick in his class that included Zion and Ja Morant. So he's a super talented guy. And Thibodeau, Thibodeau always, especially when he joins a team early, he knows what buttons to push, and he's always pushing the gas. So these guys are running. They're young. They're running all the time, and they have Derrick Rose, who's playing really good. Giving them really good point guard minutes off the bench, and it's just working. It's a master class in Thibodeau basketball.
And it's impressive that they're without Mitchell Robinson, who I think we both appreciate his game, a young center position. But they've been mixing Gibson with Nerlens Noel, and that seems to be working. Like they're going to give Noel a little bit more minutes, but they're getting good minutes at the 5, whether it's Gibson or Noel. And I think the fact that Derrick Rose is kind of healthy again right now, that's kind of helped just solidify that, make sure they have a good point guard on the floor at all times, whether that's Derrick Rose or sometimes Quickly or Alfred Payton. They have some experience at guards. So it's kind of an experienced team mixed with, guys like RJ Barrett and a couple other young guys. I'm still waiting for Obi Toppin to get in the mix, but it is probably not happening this year. He's probably best left in that 10 to 15 minutes per game range, but we'll see there. But I don't know. It's impressive. I wish we could use a little bit more people for fantasy, but I don't know. Randall, RJ Barrett, Derrick Rose, even I guess Reggie Bullock's been kind of a nice find this year off the waiver wire. I don't know if you looked at his, but he's playing a lot. He's playing a lot of minutes for them. You look at the scoring streak for the double digits. He's been fire. So
yeah, no, the Knicks are a better real life team than fantasy team, that's for sure. And it comes down to Thibodeau pulling the strings and getting some good defense out of these guys. But yeah, it's an interesting team. I don't expect them to make much of a playoff run though. They might win round one if they host that series against the Hawks or maybe even the Heat. But after that, that's kind of the ceiling for as far as I see them going.
Well, I'd be curious. I mean, they're likely to again then because they don't reseed, so they're going to be stuck with the Sixers no matter what, right?
Yep. So, that as long as the Sixers are healthy, that feels like a problem. I mean, the Sixers they have no answer for Embiid, especially with Robinson out. Noel will play him hard, but Noel can't play 30 minutes every night. And I just think Taj is solid for the regular season, and it's hard to find people that try that hard on a basketball court. But in the playoffs, when everyone's effort is a little higher, that extra boost you get from Taj going all out is going to get negated. And I just that lack of top end talent. And I love Randall and I love Barrett, but I just at their ages and their experience levels, they're just not enough, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. And I'm seeing they were 0-3 against Philly this year so far, so it could stop.
Yeah, it's a bad matchup for them, even with Robinson. Embiid is just you put Embiid in a lot of these playoff matchups, especially with the way the NBA is evolving, where teams are moving further and further away from using centers regularly. Embiid is a real problem in the NBA playoffs, I think, this year.
We got a fantasy question of America's favorite game, start, bench, cut. I don't know if you've been into some of these guys because it's been a while since I don't know. We won't talk about it, but Kenyon Martin, Mo Bamba, and DeLon Wright. So let's look into these numbers. Over the last 7 days, you got DeLon Wright averaging the most points, but all three of these guys are averaging more than 40 points per game, which is pretty wild. 46.7 for DeLon. 44.3 for Kenyon Martin, and then Mo Bamba with 41.9. If I just click on the last 15 days real quick, they're all averaging about 34 points per game. So this is a really good question, Aiden, and I'm just looking at the schedule real quick before we open up the numbers, but they all have 3 games remaining. But Houston does play the Lakers, the Clippers, and Atlanta. Those are all 3 playoff teams. The Magic play Atlanta, Philly, and Philly. I would imagine Philly's going to be resting their guys here these last 2 games, so that could be nice. And then the Kings, whatever, Memphis, Utah. I think Memphis needs to keep winning. So kind of all tough schedules. But before we look into any of the numbers, John, is there anyone that you want to make sure you for sure have the rest of the season or the rest of the week here?
I feel like Martin is at this point a must own, and maybe at this point in the season with just half of a matchup left, if you're even still playing, maybe all these guys are to some degree must own. It's just who do you want the most? I like Martin a lot. I've seen him. I do have to admit, of the 3, I've seen him play the most recently. I've probably watched 3 or 4 Houston games recently, or for reasons I don't care to admit to any of you, and he's useful. He's a really good player, and the opportunity. I mean, I think that's the thing with all these teams right now. There's a lot of opportunity for minutes for just about anyone who can do anything. But yeah, you're circling it, and even before that, he was definitely scratching the 20s, and then they started ramping it up to the 30s, and now we're in the high 30s. So. I like Martin. I think he's got legs for the rest of this year. and maybe staying power for next year, depending on what Houston decides to do and who's in charge over there.
I'm excited about Houston. I mean, if you think about Kevin Porter Jr., you got Kenyon Martin Jr., you got Christian Wood, you got Kelly Olynyk. Kelly Olynyk's been a beast a lot ever since he got to Houston. So like they got some interesting pieces. They got some good draft picks. So we'll see what they do. I just want to click on. Let's go to Delon Wright next because he's averaging the most fantasy points over the last 7 days. Look at these minutes. And this man's been putting up a lot of rebounds and assists, and the steals kind of come in bunches. And he gets blocks. Find me a point guard that gets blocks. I'm going to be interested. So a couple 60-point games, but his 46.7 is elevated by these 2 games. I don't really see much consistency here. So this I don't know if I trust as much. Let me just pull up Bamba real quick.
That last 60-pointer was like a Draymond game. 13 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists, 4 blocks, 3 steals. Craziness. So this is Mo.
This is Mo Bamba. I don't know what happened against Minnesota here. Clearly, that's not what we're looking for. But before that, 49, 57, 45. And you're not seeing a lot of minutes here. So maybe we leave Bamba on the bench. Or maybe we leave Bamba alone. He does play Atlanta tomorrow. It looks like that Thursday night, and then Philly and Philly. I'm curious if Philly needs one more win to wrap this thing up, right? Like they might be resting their guys against the Magic on those 2 games.
They very well could be, but the Philly backups are Dwight Howard and they have another center, so it's not like Bamba's going to get a walk in the park. And in fact, Dwight Howard might be jonesing at the chance to start a game. You know,
okay. So
it's hard to play that, but I think even still I think Bamba's probably the guy I cut because I think the inconsistency. While they're all kind of averaging the same things, Bamba's the most likely to tank. It feels like Wright and Martin look really. Yeah, they're not necessarily the most consistent either. But I just feel a little more steady Eddie with both of them, especially at this point in the year.
The minutes here, you get 40 per game for Kenyon Martin, 37 for Delon, and then Bamba's down here at 28. So. I think that's where we're gonna start Martin. We're gonna bench Delon, hold on to Delon, and then we'll let Mo Bamba go. But Mo Bamba next year, man, we're gonna be interested in some Mo Bamba next year. I think if this is his his baseline for next year, and he gets a little bit better, we should be pretty excited about what the Magic can do. Is they got some injury players returning. Like I'm excited to watch the Magic.
I will say Mo Bamba next year, with excitement in the voice, is something I've heard many times before, and many years in a row. So just be careful. But yeah, the upside is tantalizing for a dude that's 7'3", 7'4", can hit threes, can block shots. I mean, he's Porzingis, but a little more athletic, I feel like.
And I just want to pull up the Magic depth chart real quick so we can kind of forecast. So Wendell Carter's still healthy. I know Chuma Okeke's been out for a while. So it's going to be Okeke, Carter, and Bamba probably being the 4s and the 5s next year. I don't think they have anybody else to bring in off the IR. But you're also talking Cole Anthony, Gary Harris, James Ennis, RJ Hampton, Terrence Ross, Michael Carter. RJ Hampton's been a beast lately. Even Dwayne Bacon's been playing well. So there's a lot to work with. I'm excited to see who they add in the draft. But I don't know.
It feels like their guard position is probably the only – sorry, go ahead.
No, you got it. Like the guards are stacked.
And they have Fultz coming back next year, who I think is, in my opinion, I think is a big part of their future. So I think like what kind of – they have big guys. They have Wendell Carter. They have Mo Bamba. So it's like really what kind of, wings do they want to add to this roster to fill it out? And I think they have to go get some guys in free agency. I mean, guys like I forget some of the names, like one of the power forwards you were showing. I don't know if that guy's going to be on the roster anymore. Chuma Okeke or Jonathan Isaac will come back, I guess. But so they have a lot of bigs. They have a lot of guards. What are they going to do to fill out the wings? They definitely don't have any useful wings on the roster besides maybe Bacon, and maybe Hampton, depending on Hampton. They call him a point guard, but I think he's probably more of a shooting guard. So
we need to free Terrence Ross. We got to get Terrence Ross to Milwaukee.
That would be nice. Yeah, that would be very nice. That's a good fit for T. Ross.
Right. We got a couple questions in the chat room real quick. We're gonna get to Patrick's in a second here, but we're doing one more start bench cut. Have you seen Facundo Campazzo's numbers lately?
Not lately, but I'm seeing he's averaging basically 40 fantasy points a game recently, and that's nuts to me.
It's been a 4-game binge here, 38, 28, 53, 37. The minutes have just been trending up and up and up. He's mid-30s per game right now. He's been pretty solid, so I like him. Denver needs to keep playing. Evan Fournier, with Jalen Brown's out for the rest of the season, so I would assume they're just going to give Fournier all of his minutes and his numbers here. So I do like Evan Fournier quite a bit. And then RJ Hampton, who was a popular pickup in the last week or so, and he's just been getting around 30 minutes. He's scoring, he's getting boards and assists. So all three of these guys are really solid here. But if you had gun to your head real quick, I think I'm going with Fournier just because he's entrenched in there. He's a pure scorer. I feel safest with him. I don't know if we trust Campazzo just yet. RJ Hampton, but they're both rookies besides Fournier. So I think I'm going to start Fournier and then maybe keep Campazzo, let RJ Hampton walk.
Yeah, I think I'm feeling similar. I think I would start Campazzo. But it's close for me, Kyle. The Fournier situation is so prime. We've seen the only thing with Fournier is I think I've seen him before, whereas Campazzo is new and special. Like you said, he's a rookie. I've seen Fournier have a lot of touches, lots of opportunity in Orlando before and not do much with it. You there, Kyle? I'm not sure if I'm still on. I think I am actually still on. But yeah, Aiden, I think I'm going to start Campazzo, bench Fournier, and cut Hampton. We've been talking about the Magic a little bit. I'm going solo here. I usually always have Drake or Kyle with me, so excuse me if I go crazy here on you. But I like the Magic a lot, and I like where they're going next year. And Hampton could be a part of that. Hey, Kyle.
I think I'm okay. But did we get that answer? Did we get that question figured out for Aiden there?
I think so.
All right, and then we got Patrick Fang. I don't know if we've had Patrick Fang in our chat room before, but welcome to the show. He says he needs to hear our thoughts on Kyrie Thomas and Kenyon Martin Jr. for this final week. So let's go ahead and pull up. My dad picked up this Kyrie Thomas because he saw he was starting, and he goes off for just like 50-some points. And let's just take a look at Kyrie, and then we just looked at Kenyon Martin, so we're gonna like him quite a bit. But let's see what we're working with here. Kyrie Thomas, how did he play the other night? So you have 2-game sample here of 29.25 and 56. So would you rather this 2-game sample where it looks good? It's a wide range of outcome. You can maybe get somewhere in the 30s, but I think we gotta go with Kenyon Martin here, right?
Yeah, Patrick, I'm going with Kenyon Martin just because he's. I used the phrase "steady Eddie" before. Maybe not a true statement, but for a guy of this caliber at this point in the season, he really feels much more steady, much more consistent. He's got a historical record of some solid performance in a row. Kyrie Thomas definitely seems to have what it takes to score the basketball in this league, and that's great, especially if you're in a points league. I haven't seen him play enough to feel confident in him yet. I could be wrong, but I think give me Martin.
I think that's pretty easy for both of us. We're going to both go with Kenyon Martin Jr. Let's see what else we got here. Yep, Donovan Mitchell. We'll see if he can get back for the start of the playoffs. And this is cool, man. This Justin, he says he's going to win his money league, so he's very happy. He says thank you. So thank you for watching, man. We're glad we could help you. So we got one W at least, John. We'll take that with us for the season.
Hey, I'm glad someone's winning. Nice work, Justin.
Yeah, awesome. And he's been chatting me up on the YouTube comments like the last week or two pretty heavily, and it seemed like we were kind of against the wall. So it looks like we I don't know, very cool, man. Excited. Thank you for watching and taking our advice. Who does that?
Yeah, hey, it's nice to know that our advice is useful. In fact, maybe we should take some of our own advice. I feel like some of the things have said on this podcast, I don't always go and do, in real life, and then I regret it. So I need to take my own advice.
And what's cool about this show is, especially the Tuesday nights when we had Drake and yourself and myself on here, we had three different perspectives where we could all kind of meet in the middle. So you either agreed with one of us, or we kind of hit you in that sweet spot where something made sense. So
Sure.
I think just the collection of perspectives paid off pretty well. So we're going on about 40 minutes here. And what do you want to talk about, John? We got Aiden saying Killian Hayes is going off.
Aiden, you're speaking my language. I've already announced to the world Killian Hayes most improved player in 2022. Killian, I also said there is a chance. Yeah, thank you, Aiden. You're jogging my memory. I did say there's a chance that he could win someone a championship. Now these numbers don't look super sexy, but he's playing right now, so hopefully he has a big game tonight. And looks like he had a pretty decent game last or 2 nights ago. So maybe he's helping someone somewhere in the world win a championship.
Well, I think the way that the Pistons were one of the only teams that had 5 games last week. So I just know on my show everyone was talking about like we need Pistons. So maybe I think you got the right team, but I think it was Sadiq Bey that helped win some championships. You look at what he did.
Oh yeah.
Just look at this from May 5th to May 9th. That's what you got, from Sadiq Bey in this 5-game stretch. So what is that? That's almost 130, 140 some points off a guy you picked up off the waiver wire. So that's remarkable that we were able to at least get someone here. And then the other one too is Isaiah Stewart. He might even be more impressive. A 32, a 13, a 6, a 24, and a 38. So the Pistons, I think they definitely helped. They either won your championship if it was last week, or they got you to the championship this week. So that's pretty fun.
Well, what's extra fun about those 3 players you just showed, Kyle? They're all rookies. I mean,
that's what's cool.
The Pistons have an interesting future ahead of them. We were just harping on the Magic a little more than maybe we should have. But the Pistons really have a bright future, especially based on this last draft. So.
Mm-hmm. And then just to top off Justin real quick here, I think it's correct though, because we're dropping our Pistons probably tonight because they only have 2 more games and there's 5 days left. Go find someone that's got 3 games if you can, or if you want to make sure you got Sadiq Bey, Isaiah Stewart on your winning roster, that's cool too. But I'd probably be okay with letting go of my Pistons. They did good work. The last week and a half. Our young Pistons grew up.
Absolutely.
Justin wants us to get back to a little bit more playoff talk, which we kind of talked about this before.
Sure.
But he's asking who's going to be the 2nd and 3rd in the East. Can the Bucks get past the Nets? Do we want them? I kind of don't think I want the 2, man. I don't want anything to do with Russell Westbrook because they're probably going to represent the 7 seed coming out of that tournament. I want no part of it. Give me the 3.
Yeah, it's a really interesting question. I mean, I think I think of all the teams you could play from the 2 or the 3 spot, yeah, the Wizards are the one that I do not want to play the most. Everyone else coming out of that bubble or coming out of the play-in looks really, really appetizing, honestly. And I don't know. So I tend to agree with you a little bit there. But I think the Knicks are gonna, or not the Knicks. I think the Nets are gonna hold on to the 2 seed. The Bucks don't look engaged fully. In fact, it's a little nerve wracking right now, making me a little nervous. But and it's not like the Nets have been gangbusters either, which is I think is as a Bucks fan making me even more anxious because it's like okay, the Nets are barely hanging on to the 2 seed. They're doing everything they can to let the Bucks steal it from them, and the Bucks can't pull it off. So I'm a little nervous about the Bucks, but I do agree. I think if of all the teams from 7 down, the Wizards are by far by far the scariest. So if I'm the Bucks, I'd much more appreciate a different matchup in the first round.
And there's no way the Wizards can play the 3 seed the first round. So like we know 1, 2, the Wizards are going to be the 7 or the 8. They're going to play the 1 or 2. So, but the Bucks, like they're 7-3 in their last 10 games. I watched both games against Brooklyn. They handled Brooklyn. I know it was without James Harden, but again, something always seems to happen, and it wouldn't be till later. But I kind of like the future matchup of. But I think the Bucks can take out the Nets just from the small sample we've seen. They just need Bryn Forbes slapping some threes because it seems like whenever he's on, they're gonna win. They're gonna win the game. But I did want to, because Aiden's question, so he's like, who will be second and third in the East? I think I'm fine with Nets being 2, Bucks being 3, but I'm not so sure. This is the Knicks' remaining schedule here. These are all playoff teams. They got LA, they got San Antonio, Charlotte, and Boston. Who's to say that they're guaranteed? I guess it's the 4-5, so like they could fall to 5th, but they're going to be in that game. So I just don't know who they're going to play. I think. Let me just pull up the Hawks schedule real quick too, because I think it's all going to come down to who you play.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I mean, Washington, Orlando, Houston. The Hawks they're gonna go 2-1.
They should. They should.
So that could potentially. I mean, if the Knicks go 2-2 and these guys go 2-1, that should tie them, I would think.
Well, and they have 2 games in a row against the Wizards. They just beat them the last game, the crazy Westbrook game where Westbrook had a chance to win it at the end. So if they could actually beat the Wizards again, that would be really, they just did it. They just did it getting the best punch possible from the Wizards. And so if they could pull that off again tomorrow, speaking of that game, 6 p.m. tomorrow, that sounds kind of fun. And then, Orlando, Houston, that should be a layup. So they're going to win 2 or 3 games for sure.
So I would like
they feel locked into that 5 spot at worst.
Yeah, so I would like to see Knicks Hawks, and then I mean, as far as being the last team to make it, it seems like Miami's got this. They got a 2-game lead on the Celtics. Celtics don't have Jalen Brown, so I think that's all. This is all pretty much how it's going to be, and I can just see the Hawks and the Knicks flip flop, perhaps. So, but it doesn't really matter. So,
what do you think about the Bucks Heat first round?
It's the one team that I didn't want to match up with. Like, let's look at their roster real quick.
Yeah, it's them and the Wizards that scares me the most from 4 down in the East, and but I still think I'd rather play the Heat just because I don't want any. I think we're in total agreement.
Yeah.
We want no piece of Russell Westbrook right now.
Nope. I mean, we know Oladipo's out for a while yet. I don't know if he's going to be ready for round 1, or what is the story on Oladipo?
I don't know. I just got him as a throwdown moment on Top Shot as a rare, but beyond that, I don't know much about Oladipo.
Oladipo. So they've been holding him out for knee soreness, so he should be. It doesn't sound like anything's bad, so he should be back soon.
They're saving him for the playoffs.
Yeah. So I don't. It's redemption. This is set up for the Bucks to get some redemption on last year. But
that roster is so much better than the one last year, at least on paper. On paper, I think that Heat roster is better this year than last year, but they're not doing what they used to do.
Mm-hmm. Just reading through some of these comments real quick. Should the NBA just do the 8, 9, and 10 for the play-in and let 7 be 7? Or do you like having the 7th and 8th both have to play in the tournament?
Well, I think it makes it a little easier to do the 4 teams because the winner and the way they've approached this makes a lot of sense to me. The winner of 7-8 is immediately in, and then the loser of 7-8 gets another chance when they play the winner of 9-10. So I like the setup. It does feel a little unfair to the 7 seed, perhaps, but I do like the setup, and I think to play basically, you have 2 games, the 7-8 game, the 9-10 in 3 games, they accomplish a really cool play-in tournament on each bracket. I think I love it. I'm a big fan of the current setup, but we'll have to see it in person to see how good it actually is.
And then I did have a thought. Like, I think I could realistically make the 8, 9, 10 work here. So how is this going to work? So 7 plays 7 versus 8 and then 9 versus 10. That's correct. So the winner
Yes.
is the loser, and the winner is automatically the 7th seed. So I like that quite a bit. And then essentially this is what I was thinking to begin with, where if you wanted to just let the 7 seed slide, you're just going to have 9 play 10 and the winner plays 8. And then that's the game right there. So I'm fine with making the 7th seed have to play at least 1 game. In theory, they should get by, but who knows? And if not, they should be able to beat the 9-10. So it'll work. It gives us 4 extra games to watch. So actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6
more games.
Yeah. So I'm super. It didn't seem like the players were very fond of it, but I think this is going to be really good for the NBA going forward, and it should be a lot of excitement going forward as well.
I agree.
So coming out of the West. What do we think of this West setup here? Because you're gonna get Portland with the LA Clippers as of right now, which I don't want to have to play Dame Lillard in the playoffs. He can do anything at any moment, but he's playing against a good defense in LA. I'm trying to think here. They got a 1.5 game on the Lakers. It seems like they're going to be safe, especially if no LeBron tonight. If the Lakers lose tonight against the Knicks, then I think the Trailblazers are going to be locked in there. So. These West matchups look kind of fun.
Yeah, I mean, if let's just say things hold as they are, I wouldn't be, I think maybe the Grizzlies, maybe the Spurs could steal the Warriors spot, because that Warriors team is Steph Curry and a bunch of Jags, but the rest of this feels like it's probably going to hold.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that could flip it potentially feels like Mavericks and Blazers, but regardless. I love the 3-6 matchup, Clippers Blazers. That's a really fun first round matchup, and Nuggets Mavericks. I mean, you have the two fascinating European players, Jokic versus Doncic, but then you throw Porzingis into the mix, Campazzo into the mix. There's just so many like cool foreign players in that game, which is really exciting in that matchup. And then you theoretically, you probably have Suns Lakers round 1, Suns hosting, and then who knows who the Jazz get. I think I wouldn't be shocked if it's any one of the 8, 9, 10 teams. I think the Lakers have to be a shoo-in for the. I think they just win the first game. They just crush the Warriors in the first game, and they get the 7 seed.
Mm-hmm.
But after that, I have no idea what's going to come out from that 8 seed. And honestly, especially if Mitchell's not right, that 8 seed has a fighting chance. I mean, like you said, Kyle, the Jazz have been doing just fine without Mitchell, but playoffs are a different beast. You need your studs, you need your stars to have success in the playoffs. And the Jazz, they don't have a scoring stud outside of Mitchell that we've seen in the playoffs. At least Clarkson has been a regular season scorcher many times in his career, but we've never seen Clarkson just go off in the playoffs. So I'm not saying he can't do it, but we need to see it. So they really need Mitchell, I think.
So Justin's asking about the Blazers, thinking if they can get to the 5. I have to look at the schedules, but if you're the Blazers, is there an incentive for you to move up to get to the 5? You would play Denver. Would you rather play? So you're the Blazers. Would you rather play the Nuggets, or would you rather play the Clippers and hold at 6?
So do you want to play the MVP, or do you want to play Kawhi and PG-13? I mean, it's like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. But really, what of the top 6 teams, top 7 teams really in the West, including the Lakers, which one of those teams do you want to play? Like they're all just so damn good.
So here's my case. If you're Portland, you're trying your ass off the rest of the rest of this week, because you want to play Facundo Campazzo, you want Dame Lillard, CJ McCollum matched up on some rookies. And they got Cantor and Nurkic like that. That should be a formidable stopgap to at least limit Jokic from doing his typical things.
Sure.
But with no Jamal Murray, man, I could see his defense against a guy like Dame or CJ would be needed. I think if you're the Trailblazers, the Nuggets would be your best bet. Because I don't trust the rookie Compazzo. I know Dozier and a couple other of the guys have been nice, but that might be the best way. I think their bigs match up really well against Jokic too. So it's kind of a horse apiece, though. You take this poison or you take this poison.
Well, that's a good point. Yeah, without Murray, the Nuggets are probably the weakest of those top 7 teams. And honestly, like somehow the Nuggets and the Jazz are like the two teams I feel like are the most vulnerable. And those are, the Nuggets have the team with the MVP, and the Jazz are the #1 seed in the toughest conference. So it's just like it's crazy for me to say that, but just kind of on paper with what's going on with these teams, I really think those are, once you get to those top 7, whoever survives round 1, if you're matched up with the Jazz or you're matched up with the Nuggets, you're probably happy with that because that's better than the alternative.
Mm-hmm. And then I'm just looking. We're going on the hour. We're at 7 o'clock here, so we'll wrap up shortly. But just looking at the 7, 8, 9, and 10, I just watched San Antonio destroy Milwaukee last night. They got guys that can score at given moments. The Grizzlies also. The Grizzlies, again, we've talked about this multiple times throughout the year. They're one of the deeper teams. They can go. Their second team is probably going to be able to keep them in a lot of games. So I like the Grizzlies' depth. And then Steph Curry in a play-in tournament, dude, it's going to feel like the stupid the March Madness tournament. That's what it's going to feel like watching him play in a play-in tournament. So I'm excited about that. And then they're going to end up playing the damn Lakers. So like, I don't know. We're kids in a candy store. Playing tournament's going to be awesome.
The Warriors are easy money for sports gambling. Just always take the points over for Steph and always take the points under for Wiggins, and you're gonna and then invest that into Dogecoin, and all of a sudden you don't even need to work anymore. You're gonna retire early. So, but yeah, I love the Warriors. I think eventually, whenever the stakes get ratcheted up enough, and Curry on his own can beat a lot of teams. But and in the play-in, he's going to shine through for sure. In fact, they might even beat the Lakers in the first game, just if he just goes supernova. But in a 7-game series against one of those top 7 seeds, he's not enough. He's so good, but he's just not enough.
Oh, I'm just excited to sit back and watch. To be honest, like this is probably the first time I'm going to be super excited about round 1 of the playoffs, just because of this added competition at the teams 7 through 10. We're going to be a little bit more invested into this first round, which I think is what the NBA was trying to do. Because usually the first round it's just like a chalk. You're just going to take the top 4 seeds or maybe the 5th seed to move. But I think just the way this season folded out, you got LeBron. And you got Curry in the playing tournament. You got Russell Westbrook in the playing tournament.
Ja Morant.
This is setting up. Yeah, this is setting up really nicely. DeMar DeRozan. Like this is going to be really fun. Let me just scroll up here, and then we're going to be able to watch bonus. We're going to watch LaMelo in the play-in tournament.
Tatum. You got a lot of fun stars in the play-in tournament. Westbrook's playing his best ball, maybe of his entire freaking life. Excuse my language. Sabonis is playing the best basketball of his life. LaMelo Ball, he's only a rookie, but he's incredible. Tatum might be playing the best basketball of his life. And then on the other side, Steph Curry might be playing the best basketball of his life. DeMar DeRozan might be playing the best basketball of his life. And Ja Morant, last year Ja was a freak, but this year Ja has been a little more hit and miss, but he still could be playing the best basketball of his life. So you have so many superstars who are peaking at the perfect time, and they're all in the play-in. This is and then the one team we didn't mention is the team that's got LeBron and Anthony Davis.
Yep. The NBA probably could not have asked for a better outcome for this play-in tournament. It's getting a little bit of everything. It's superstar studded, and it's got a couple sleepers in it too. So I'm excited to see how Charlotte fares. Boston, Charlotte, those teams. I kind of want Indiana and Washington to advance, but we'll get to watch that next Tuesday night. So
Yeah, let's can we look at that 8-9, like because I agree with you. I kind of want to see more Sabonis, and I definitely the 8-9 in the East, sorry. I want to see more Sabonis and I want to see more Westbrook. So yeah, in theory, you could because I was going to say, Sabonis and Westbrook would just cannibalize each other in the first game, but if one of those teams jumps to the 8 seed, this would be really entertaining to me. Like, could you imagine Westbrook versus Tatum in the 7-8 game? And then the loser of that game has to play Sabonis in like the final playing game. That's certainly not as exciting as what's in the West, but that's pretty fun.
But for Indiana, I mean, you're also their best player. I think the last week or so has been Karis LeVert. I don't know if you looked into his numbers, but LeVert kicked my ass last week. That's why I couldn't make the damn championship. Like I just couldn't do anything against him. He was putting up high 40s every night. So you're talking Sabonis, LeVert, and then you're going to add in Brogdon if he's healthy. So that's a pretty good trio there. That's going to probably play some good basketball if they're all on the floor together. So super excited. But I don't know, man. Any final thoughts here on our last? This is technically our last Tuesday of the fantasy season, but
Yeah.
I'm just happy we helped someone win a championship. I hope we helped a couple others too.
Yeah, no, final thoughts. It's been a fun year. I didn't make, you're having fun when you don't make the playoffs and you still would say it's a fun year. And I made all the wrong decisions along the way. I had a poor draft. Montrezl Harrell in the 5th round. Shout out to Montrez. What was I thinking? But it was fun, man. And the podcast made it so much better for me. It was really cool to engage, my brain in a different way about fantasy basketball. So thank you for setting this up, Kyle. Mm-hmm. But final thoughts, already excited for next year. This is, we're going to bring it back. Yeah, we'll bring the banana boat back with Drake, and you guys are in for a treat year 2.
And we had no plans to do this podcast like up until like 3 weeks before the season started. Let's just do some mock draft videos and kind of see what happens. We didn't know what we were going to talk about on a given night the first couple of weeks, but it worked out. And thank you to everybody in the chat room that's watched the video, that's subscribed, that's followed us and asked questions. I think that's the most important thing that we could ask. To have a group of people that are just interested in asking good questions. So thank you to everybody that's participated. And I think we're gonna try to get some basketball podcasts going where we maybe just hang out going forward on Tuesday nights and let's talk about these play-in games. Maybe we have them going on while they're playing and we just do a podcast. So there's gonna be more to come with basketball, but my mind's into the football right now. I started doing my projections. I got rookie stuff going on. So we'll get to that as well. But I don't know, man. I just want to say thank you to everybody. Thank you, John, for your time hanging out all these Tuesday nights and sometimes Thursdays. But I don't know, man. I think that's a good wrap to the 2021 fantasy basketball season. Thank you, guys. Have a good night. Peace.